Hello, welcome back to Football United TV. Thank you so much for subscribing and tuning in recently. We have two very special guests with us today. The man, the one and only Have Hope, and the legend that is Prime. How are you guys doing?
All good, man. All good.
Yeah, it's been good. I'm ready for this.
You guys, you've been waiting for this a while because you really wanted to come onto this, Prime. So nice to have you here, mate. And look, you guys must be really happy with what happened to Chelsea on Wednesday. Like, amazing. But I wanted to quickly touch on Maradona dying a few weeks back now. Have Hope as well. We spoke about him in a very good light, mate. We both agreed that he's the best player of all time, the GOAT. What did you think when you heard the news? Was it crushing? Because I was really crushed, mate. I couldn't believe what I heard, and I was like, the greatest of all time has died, and I was like, is this a joke? Is this a wind up? Is it April Fools? Do you know what I mean? And it just blew me away. What did you make of it, Havo?
Yeah, I mean, like it was crazy because obviously just found out. It was obviously via WhatsApp and at first, similar to like the Kobe Bryant thing. You're like, okay, no, this can't be true. This can't be real. And then when you just look at more reliable news sources and you see multiple news reports all reporting like, okay, yeah, wow, this is it. And yeah, like it just feels like a chasm is now in full football, because even like Masoko's my older brother, who obviously knew Maradona like better, but he says like this is similar to like Michael Jackson and music. That once Michael Jackson left, they just felt like if like for popular music there was like a chasm, and I think for Maradona, because he represents, for me, I just think he represents all the elements of football. Because you may have like Messi and Pele represent like the talent side. You have Cristiano that represents the mentality side. Like basically like a Cristiano and a Ibrahimovic represent the mentality side. Maradona had all the elements of the personality, the passion, the psychology, the talents, the skill. All at once, he was like the perfect representation of what football means and the passion for football. So just him going like it's huge, because and that's why I always said like it's you have to basically cherish guys when they're around, because obviously he was cherished, but I think people were always like about but the drugs, this and that. But I think his imperfections is what made him so endearing, because you can sort of connect with somebody who's imperfect rather than somebody who is perfect. So all of his mistakes and everything is what made him a character and a real person. So that kind of character is what you saw on that pitch. So it was it's football's big loss. It's a big loss for football, massive.
What's really strange as well? I got this Boca Juniors shirt the night before. It got delivered the night before he died.
Oh, okay.
It's really strange, you know what I mean? I was like, I'm so glad that I was able to wear it as soon as I heard the news. I threw it on and I was like, mate, like I'm going to watch every single documentary I can about him. I've even been watching the original FIFA 86 World Cup documentary, which is which is amazing. Prime, what did you make of it? I know you're a lot younger than us, and you didn't get to see him in his heyday like through your eyes, but like, what do you make seeing like clips of him and hearing stories?
Yeah, obviously, it's terrible, the death of Maradona and everything. Yeah, I didn't grow up through that time period, him and his pomp, but I've watched so many like past games and highlights and everything, and people try and say like the closest to him is like Messi and everything like that. I don't truly believe that. He's one of the greats to grace the game, and also when you look at the positives that he did outside the game. I remember there's this one story where he organized a like charity game for a kid in his like local field and stuff like that, and got like thousands of people to show up and stuff like that. The guy's just an amazing footballer, and the passion he had for the game is unparalleled, and he's going to be a big loss.
He is, and I think going back to what Have Hope said as well, the fact that he wasn't the perfect human being, do you know what I mean? Like there was imperfections about him, and someone even said like there was Diego and then there was Maradona. It was like an alter ego. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody loved Diego, and people weren't really too sure on the Maradona side of him. And even Pele coming out recently and saying that he'd love to play football up with him up in the sky. Do you know what I mean? I found that very nice to hear, because I know they've had a bit of squabbling, haven't they, in the past, them two? Do you know what I mean? And he's still going to be the GOAT, even if Pele dies. Do you know what I mean? Like he's always going to be the one for me that was much better. I mean, would you agree with that, Have Hope?
Oh no, yeah, I think we wouldn't touched on that before. It's like, I mean, I always respect what Pele did and his impact, but I've always said that, based on, I think that Maradona was just the better player. So I believe he was the better player, and also he had a passion for the game. So I think it's really, greatness is really about, I always say, the degree of difficulty. So what he did at that 86 World Cup and what he did for Napoli over those 2 seasons, and just the kind of person that he was, I think, because football is the common man sport. It's not golf or tennis. It's a sport for the poor person, the working class person. And Maradona represented that. He was very much fought for the working class, poor, regular dude. And I think he, really sort of like embedded that inside in the way that he played the game and just the way that he carried himself. So for me, with respect to what Pele has done for me, Maradona was the better player. And by that, I just think he was the GOAT. So
he was indeed, yeah. Rest in peace to him as well. Like, much love. Respect. Going into fans coming back to stadiums, what do you make of this, Have Hope? Like, do you think it's a good thing, or do you think that? I mean, I'm hearing a lot of people saying that they should probably wait until everybody can go to games, and because I know the north of England, certain clubs can't have fans at all, and you can't travel to away games. Only fans in that region that live there. And looking at Newcastle, probably haven't got too many fans in London to be able to go to the game. Do you think you agree with this decision?
I mean, for me, you have to just look at what the health officials are saying, because my thing is, even if you're bringing in 2,000, 4,000, that still won't sort of balance the books, because obviously Daniel Levy has said that they have suffered a lot because of no fans coming in, and they are a big stadium, so if you give Tottenham 2,000, 3,000, okay, that's cool, but on the larger scheme of things, when you open up that finance book, it's not really going to push the needle that much. So I think for them, it's like so from the financial point of view, is either you can give us a sizable amount where we can pretty much almost fill up the stadium, or this is barely anything. But I think just on the kind of people atmosphere point of view, I think because remember, I think we saw it in the Super Cup. So Chefrin, the UEFA president, was like, okay, no, we're going to actually allow that. So I think we're actually going to allow a few people, 2,000, 3,000 to come in. And I think you are seeing it in the Syria as well, and other places where there's about 2,000, 3,000, and it's all social distancing, partitioned seating that they have there. So I think, look, because I think this is just about slowly creeping up to normality, because now you're hearing about this vaccine, and maybe potentially we can be sort of like turn this kind of crazy tide. So I think it's just from a visual point of view, I think it'll be a way to slightly motivate people that maybe we're getting towards normality, that the fact that there are people there. Because even when I watched some of the Syria games, I was like, oh, man, just to see people in the stadiums, even if it's 3,000, 4,000, just to see people there, it's 1,000 people is better than nobody. Where it's just, you can, but the fact that there are just people there, you can see guys waving the flag and everything, it's at least it's something, and it's a community sort of thing, and it is closer to the football, because the football that we know is the fans. So yeah, but I think, but the question is, when are we going to have full stadiums? That's a question that we just don't know.
Yeah, no, it could be a very long time, couldn't it? And we've got the Euro 2021
Yeah.
up as well, and hopefully we can get back to some normality there, because if we've got a stadium of only, say, 1,000 or 2,000, it's not going to be quite the same. And obviously we've got to look after our health. That's the first most important thing. Prime, would you agree with what Have Hope said there? Like,
yeah, it's in terms of the sport, football and everything, it's important to try and get fans in, not necessarily as quickly as possible, but when it's also safe to do. But with like, for example, here in this country, there's talks of there could be another lockdown again after the whole Christmas New Year period. Which, if that's going to happen, are fans going to be allowed back in stadiums? I don't know. It's just how the whole process of everything. It seems like not the government anyway. It seems like they don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah, they don't, do they? I mean, it seems like football clubs are trying to take it into their own hands. Do you know what I mean? And trying to maneuver what they can do and what's legit and what isn't breaking the rules, etc., etc. Like they even had, they were using the boxes, weren't they, at some big team? They couldn't watch the game; they were watching it on a screen, like in the box. And
because I think it's like I think the main thing about it, beyond just obviously the atmosphere, sort of, is the money aspect. Obviously, a large part of money comes from the TV deals, but also a large amount also comes from gate receipts. Because if you take, like, what's it called? So Arsenal have the highest season tickets price in Europe. Yeah, they did. Like, I still believe they do that. It's the highest season tickets price in all of Europe, Arsenal. And you're looking at, like, it's Tottenham and so forth, is those tickets, because especially with their new stadium, which I've seen, it's crazy. So it's like you're looking at maybe 40-50 pounds per person, and when you look at the VIP seats as well. So that is I remember, so you're getting that kind of income at least 20 to 25 times a season if you take all the home league games, your cup games, your European games. You're looking at 20-25 times a season where you're raking in all of that money. So that is a sizable part of their income. That also coincides with the TV money, because the TV money is just a bit of an extra. So the issue is balancing health and financial survival, because obviously you need these finances to survive, but again, we just don't know how safe it is. So you can't just be like, oh no, we have to have these guys in because we need this money. Well, like you can't. They were dealing with this disease that we just don't know. Nobody knows exactly what this disease is about, and you can't just put your loss for finances ahead of a pandemic. And also, my thing as well is that specifically for the Premier League, you do have a lot of this TV money, because you can just pull up the charts and look at what a team in 17th, 18th, 19th gets. That's a lot of money. So you should be able to handle your finances better to be able to survive through this period, But I think, that's things like, I just don't know when we'll have fans back. But let me even ask you guys a question. I mean, because for me personally, I've not been that bothered with hard seeing fans, because I look at football a different way. Because I normally look at football on mute, because I can concentrate on the formations of what guys are doing. So I'm looking at the aspects of it. Some people say, oh no, man, it's just not the same without fans. But for me, I'm like, obviously fans for me is like an extra source. But without fans, it doesn't really bother me, because I'm here for the talent, the players, the tactics, and the strategy. So for you guys, how much has not seeing fans affected your enjoyment of the game?
I don't think it's affected me that much. Yeah, at first it was a bit weird not seeing full stadiums and stuff. The first league to be back was the Bundesliga. But yeah, watching it more, especially post lockdown and everything, I just stopped. Like the commentary and then having the fake crowd noises, it was just weird to me. So I was just watching things on mute, and while watching the game, I was listening to watch-alongs, whether it be from like the terrace or from whatever, and that allowed me to get different perspectives from like different fans and everything, and also my just watching the game and watching things tactically instead of just listening to whatever commentator says how the game's going. That allowed me to like understand football a lot more.
I found it really good. I love hearing the coaches and the managers shouting instructions, and that you can kind of get a real glimpse of how it is. Like, it kind of feels like exhibition games, like behind closed doors. And even the players shouting, do you know what I mean, and say things to other players. It's really nice to hear, and you know who's like sort of conducting the orchestra. You know what I mean, in the clubs that you're watching. I don't know. Yeah, it's a 50-50 for me. I mean, it is really important to have fans there, I think, just because without fans, football wouldn't exist. But at the same time, I do enjoy looking into it deeper and seeing what actually happens when they play games. Because, I mean, I never heard Ole Gunnar Solskjaer shouting before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow, like, sounds quite aggressive. You know, I didn't believe it'd be like that. But do you know what I mean? Like, you kind of get a different perspective on what people act like. Yeah. Would you agree with that, Have Hope?
Yeah, no, I mean, not for me. I think like that's why it's so good, because it almost takes me back to when we used to play in school, and you hear how people would shout instructions and everything and so forth. And but then also, like, I think when you have fans, the atmosphere just makes you look at it much more as like a spectacle and so forth. But when you now remove the fans, you're actually focusing much more on what the players are actually doing. Because the fans, you may not realize it, but subconsciously, it's distracting your brain from actually really looking specifically at tactically what guys are doing. So now, when you don't actually have the fans, and as Prime said, you mute the commentary as well, because again, like, really, we don't really listen to the commentary, we listen to the fan atmosphere. So without the fans, we pretty much, okay, no, let's just put this on mute, because the fake crowd noise just sounds weird. You're now focusing more on the game and looking and appreciating more about how guys actually now move their movements, their tactics, and the strategies. I think it's a great way for people appreciating what Pep does, what Klopp does, what Simeone does, what all these kind of guys do, and also how much goes into what teams do with the ball, without the ball, and so forth. So,
Do you think it makes it easier for the players as well, especially if you're going to like a big ground, say, you know, Old Trafford, and there's no fans there? You think that's something that away teams think, yeah, this is great. Like, we haven't got that pressure from fans now. And I mean, look
yeah.
at Newcastle as well, like Steve Bruce. He would get slated right now if there were so many fans in there, you know what I mean? And he hasn't.
Mm.
The pressure's off a little bit. Would you agree?
Yeah, I was. Look at Arsenal, how bad they're doing right now. They'd get destroyed. And I think it's at times it allows players to play with a bit less pressure, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. Again, Arsenal, for example, the way they were playing under Arteta at the start, the way they were passing and playing out of the back, that all looks great. But when you have fans in the stadiums and the pressure of fans going, oh, just waiting for a mistake to happen, is that necessarily the best thing? Yes and no. You look at, for example, what Aston Villa beat Liverpool 7-2. If there's fans in that stadium, yeah, Aston Villa were winning, but does that scoreline, is it 7-2 again? If when Spurs beat United 6-1, and yes, Martial got sent off, and that had a massive impact on the game, but Spurs were dominant from start to finish. If there's fans in that stadium, is that the same result, the same outcome? When Liverpool beat Chelsea 2-0, is that the same outcome? A lot of these games that's happened, when there's fans in the stadium, it does change the complexion of games.
Do you think officials like it as well, like the linesmen and the referees? Do you think they're happy that the fans ain't there, you know what I mean, so they don't get too much chip? Like,
Yeah. No, for me, I think, like, because as Prime said, like, Prime made a good point with people who can deal with pressure without pressure. Like, someone with like a Cristiano, I think he would feed off a lot from the fans and the atmosphere. Like, for instance, like, when for like, basically, I think, like, remember that game, like, I think Juve against at Atletico, in the second leg, when he was coming back, you could see him sort of like riling up the people, say, come on, because that fan thing sort of gives you just that extra impetus. And also, as Prime said again, like, what's it called? All with what Arsenal are now doing, that the Arsenal fans would react to it, and there'd be moans, there'll be boos and everything. And how would that sort of affect the team? So, I think, yeah, because it's like 100%, we wouldn't have the results we would have if there were fans. 100%. Because without fans, psychologically, mentally, you approach the game differently. I don't believe you have 7-2 between Villa and Liverpool if there are fans. You just don't have that. I think that not having fans played a role in that, because the way teams approach it, the way they focus it and everything, hence why like this is going to be such a different league season, because it's COVID, it's the injuries, it's the fixture congestion, and it's no fans. Hence why in all the leagues, you look at what Sociedad are doing, look at what AC Milan are doing, look at what Tottenham are doing. These are guys who you would not normally be seeing do this well if things were regular. So I think therefore the whole no fans thing is a massive effect psychologically on the results.
Do you think? I mean, obviously Bayern Munich, the run-in for the Champions League, slapped Chelsea. They slapped Barcelona, and they
Leon.
played Leon. It wasn't in the semi-final. Do you think the same outcomes happen, as well as PSG in the final? That was a close game, but PSG were so terrible in that final. Do you think the same results and outcomes happen?
100%, it still happens. 100% it still happens, because it's like, I think Bayern Munich aren't like a Liverpool. I don't think Bayern Munich are, especially with Germans, I don't think they feed off the fans and so forth as much as English teams do. I think a lot of Premier League teams, because of how the fans are, they really feed off the atmosphere. But for a Bayern Munich, they're very surgical and very precise and based like in what they're doing. So for me, like with fans, with no fans, one leg, two legs, those guys were lubricating every single team in their power. Like nobody was stopping them, man. Nobody was stopping those guys, man.
Do you think also, looking at like grassroots and non-league, do you think that the Premier League clubs and just the organisation in general should be helping them out more? Like, with lots of clubs now are going into liquidation, aren't they, because of what's happening? And all this money at the top, and you kind of think, could you not just trickle a little bit down to help out the grassroots football?
Well, no, for sure, because like that grassroots football is all part of everybody should feel a part of the family and the football fraternity, and the fact of the matter is now you're not indebted to help anyone. There is no law that you have to help anyone, but it's just about where your moral compass and your ethical principles lie, because the Premier League is the biggest brand in the world. It is the most popular brand in the world. And again, like I saw Showman just shared me like a list of like what every single team from top to bottom gets, where if you finish like 16th, 17th in the Premier League, you receive more money than a team who finishes like 4th or 3rd in La Liga or Serie A. So the money is there because the Premier League as a brand is so profitable. So the fact that you have all this money, I just think that you don't have to, but you should. And the Premier League, you do, based on just all the years you've had of having this brand since the early 90s that you promote to Asia, the Middle East, to Africa, and so forth, and all the deals you have with Sky, Super Sports, DSTV in Africa, like the money is there. And I think that just a portion of that should be pushed into helping these smaller clubs at least to survive. So
yeah, when you look at, if you finish in the relegation places, you get relegated this season, the compensation packages that you'll get can set you up in the championship. It can enforce sort of a rebuild, kind of what Norwich are going through. But then again, it's like, if we say we help the lower leagues, how far does that go down? Championship, League One, League Two. Then it comes to the discussion of, then should they not then go and help non-league and grassroots football? And is there then enough money for everyone in the whole tiering system of English football? Again, I don't know. Is it because the FA, or at least the Premier League side of things, is only responsible for Premier League teams? So then, is it not a responsibility for the Championship, or who's in charge of that, to control their side of things and everyone to control their own side of things, or should the FA be responsible for everything? They should, but yes, but then it's a thing of who gets what. How do you decide who gets what amount? Is it based on the bigger club, or is it based on the fact of do you base off of league position, or do you just base off the fact of, okay, you're in League Two, you get this amount, League One gets this amount, Championship gets this amount? Do you pay the clubs that are in the Premier League? Because you think if you're in the top six, or the top six biggest teams in England, in the Premier League in England, they shouldn't need a compensation package. You should think Everton, Wolves, Everton. You should think like Everton, Wolves. They shouldn't need a compensation package. Newcastle shouldn't need one really either. So then it's a thing of who gets what, and then it becomes an argument of, well, it's not fair. You only gave the club this amount, or this club shouldn't need it, and stuff like that, and it becomes a whole complicated mess, which they should actually take care of, but they're not going to.
It's like my local club. They played in I think it was a cup game just before this second lockdown, and they won it, and they got about $5,000 from the win, and that's just about balanced them off to stay open and not shut down. So it's nice to hear that, but then I'm thinking, what about the losing team? Are they're going to suffer from that, and FA's giving money out to the winners. That's really cool, but a lot of the grassroots, I think they should be looked after, because without grassroots football, there wouldn't be the Premier League and stuff like that. And like you were saying, Have Hope as well. Championship teams, when they win the playoff, it's like the most expensive. What do you call it? It's you get the most amount of money in world football, don't you? Playoff, which is it's crazy, really, isn't it? But like you said, it's a product, it's a brand, it's the biggest brand in the world. Not necessarily the best league for players. We've talked about that before, haven't we? But yeah, definitely the biggest brand. What going into Chelsea, guys, just to finish it off here, what did you make of the result on Wednesday? I mean, Olivier Giroud scoring 4, people saying that he should probably start games now, and that's quite good for the club, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? That you've got a good squad depth now, it looks like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, what I didn't realize that people sort of made me aware of is that the amount of players that Sevilla were missing, because Sevilla play Real Madrid this weekend. You know, I remember both sides have already gone through. So Sevilla, okay, yeah, we've already gone through. We're not really that bothered about first or second. So I think Sevilla, in my view, are maybe putting more focus in winning La Liga than winning the Champions League, because they feel like if they've got a better chance of winning La Liga, specifically this season, with Real and Barcelona struggling, so they have a better chance of winning La Liga this season than things. So I think Loptigi is okay. I think let's just really put all our eggs inside this La Liga basket. So, you know, Jesus Navas, the captain, several guys were sort of missing of their core team. But I think, again, it just shows that Chelsea's squad is very good. The fact that the B team can come in and play that well and do that. But I think the story of it was Olivier Giroud, you know, because Tammy Abraham has been playing well. But overall, I think the safer striker to go with is Giroud. You know, now Giroud isn't Benzema, he isn't Kane, he's not Lewandowski, he's not Aguero. But if you're comparing him to Tammy Abraham, I think you're going to get more from Giroud over a season that you will get from Tammy over a season. I think Lampard has to realize that it's not about the players you like or the players that do what you want to do. It's the players that give you the best results and the best productivity. And I think Giroud gives you the best productivity in terms of his link play, his aerial ability, and I think that he's got better goal scorer. I mean, I think Tammy is a better overall football player in terms of what he can do with the ball at his feet. But I think in terms of the role of a striker and scoring goals, Giroud is a better goal scorer, has a better eye for goal than Tammy does. And that is full stop. Like, if every role has a priority, the priority of the striker is, can you put the ball inside the net? And Giroud can do that better than Tammy. So,
do you agree with that, Prime? Like, what did you make of it?
Yeah, we know the qualities of Giroud. He's vastly more experienced positioning wise and tactically, he's phenomenal. Is he world class? No, but in terms of what he does and what he facilitates for the team, there's not many or none at all that's better in what he can do. For example, that Spurs game, yes, Tammy was in, I guess, the better run of form because he was playing games, and there's no reason why he should have been dropped from the team. But against Spurs, the better option was to go with Giroud up front. And that's what should have been done. Frank didn't. Gave the faith and trust in Tammy. He didn't necessarily repay it. But yeah, I think second choice should be Giroud because the options he gives, what he can do is a lot more than Tammy. I think he's one of the best backup strikers in the Prem, even in the world. And if Pulisic isn't fully fit and ready to go against Leeds tomorrow, then I think Giroud, yes, should be the one starting up front.
That's a big game for you as well, Leeds, isn't it? Because, I mean, looking back in history, they're your rivals pretty much, right? Would you say?
Yeah, but the thing about this rivalry thing is I think that's much more of like a historical thing. I think as of right now, there's a massive gap between both sides. But I think, no, that's, for me, I think that game is a good matchup for Chelsea based on how Bielsa wants his guys to play and how expansive they are. So obviously they're going to pose a threat, but I think you look at the difficulty Chelsea had in breaking down United, breaking down Tottenham. I still think that this team struggles against defensive sides, and that's what they need to figure out. Leeds are not a defensive side. They're going to come out and play and pass the ball around and try to have spacing. So I think that will play into Chelsea's hands. So it's made for Chelsea to not comfortably, but to comprehensively be the better team and win the game. But it should basically, I think it's going to be an entertaining game based on how both teams play. It's going to be an entertaining game, and also obviously there's the whole kind of undercurrents of the Spygate thing between Lampard and Bielsa and so forth. So yeah.
Binoculars. But
Yeah.
he's do that in South America, isn't he? That's not really, like we said before, it's not a cheap move.
Look, yeah, I'll be honest with all of that. Look, it happens. Let's not pretend that Jose hasn't done that before, or Fergie, or whoever. When you're a top manager and you're a winner, you do everything that you can to win. It happens. It's the same as diving in football and things like that. And yeah, you may not like it, but it's the dark arts of the game. Any advantage you can to win.
Guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for chatting today. That was really cool, actually, as well. We delved into quite a few important topics, I'd say, to be fair. Have Hope, do you want to shout out your socials, let everyone know where you are?
Yeah, man. So yeah, I think the best thing to do, you can just head to the website havehopefootballhut.com, and you can just see, my Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything. So just havehopefootballhut.com is where you can find all my socials and how to contact me via email.
Brilliant. Prime, what about you?
Yeah, catch me on the Football Terrace. Search it on YouTube, Twitter, Football Terrace on Facebook as well. My own personal channel, Ladimus Prime, is where I sit down with people and do interviews. I did one with Matt last week on Saturday. Was it, Matt?
It was, yeah.
On Saturday, yeah, on Saturday. Check it out. It's a great interview. We're talking about like music in California, a bit about football as well. It's just, don't want to spoil it. Just check it out. It's amazing. Also, follow me on Twitter as well. Ladimus Prime X. If you search it, I'll come up, and yeah, follow me. Let's talk.
Cool. And Football United TV, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Thank you for subscribing, and please go and check out these two's social media platforms, because especially Have Hope as well, mate. Like you do quite a lot, man. Like you work hard, man. So
thanks, man.
Good, man, what you do. And Prime, Have Hope, thank you so much, and get you on again soon, hopefully.
Peace. Thanks, guys. Peace.
Yeah.